My parents missed my wedding because I got married before my perfect sister. This is a story that I've been putting off for a long time, thinking that maybe I'm exaggerating or something. But now I feel it's time to let it out of myself, and maybe at least someone will understand what it feels like when your life and your relationship are under pressure from other people's expectations, and then this whole illusion collapses. I'm not sure if this will be an interesting or exciting story for everyone, but maybe someone who is going through something like this will understand me. It's not just a family drama, it's been a long journey full of pain and revelations. So, I'll start from the beginning. My name is Julia. I am 29 years old. I am the eldest of two daughters in our family. My younger sister, Lena, is 3 years younger than me. My parents have always been very successful people. Mom is a successful doctor, Dad is an entrepreneur, a man who built everything himself, but always remained in the shadows, diligently hiding his emotions, problems, and worries. Parents have always lived by the principle of everything should be on the level. My sister and I were always supposed to be perfect children, beautiful, smart, well-mannered, successful in everything. Mom and Dad were real workaholics and believed that if you want to achieve something, you need to work tirelessly and without compromise. It has always been difficult for me to meet these high standards. I could never be as correct and successful a daughter as Lena. She was a real star. From an early age, she showed leadership skills, studied well, was involved in sports, art, and other things that Mom and Dad considered important. We always went with them to some important events, met with their friends, the parents of my classmates, and all that was expected of us was to behave perfectly. Everything had to be in plain sight. We lived with this feeling that we were always being looked at, evaluated, and we needed to constantly be the center of attention and look flawless. Lena was just the perfect daughter in the eyes of our parents. She not only met all expectations, but also exceeded them. She always knew what she wanted, and she went straight to her goal. When she graduated from university, she immediately got a good job at a large international company, and after some time she met a man who fit the ideal image of a son-in-law. He is also successful, with an excellent education, a wonderful family, and good manners. It was the very image of the man my parents dreamed of seeing their daughter with, and I, for my part, always felt that I couldn't be like that. I studied well too, but otherwise I didn't meet the standards. I did not have such success in my studies. I did not actively engage in sports or art like Lena. I was on the other side, the person who asked questions, who was not afraid to openly discuss problems, who did not fit into the framework. My passion for music, painting, and traveling didn't quite fit the image of a successful daughter. And I often had to deal with this. When I met Dmitry, my future husband, I already knew that my parents would not accept him. He wasn't the perfect man they imagined. He was 5 years older than me, and he was not one of those who studied at prestigious universities and worked in large companies. He did not have a degree from a well-known university, and his work was not something special from the point of view of my parents. Dmitry was the owner of a small business that started from scratch, and his life had its difficulties. But it didn't matter to me. I was in love, and that was the main thing. He and I found support and understanding in each other, which was the most important thing for me. He always supported me, and I always supported him. We went through a lot of difficult moments together, and at some point, I realized that I wanted to spend my life with him. When Dmitry and I decided to get married, I invited my parents. I was hoping that they would change their minds after seeing how happy I was, and maybe accept it in their own way. But they immediately said they couldn't come. The reason was, to put it mildly, strange. You're getting married before Lena. At that moment, I just couldn't believe my ears. That is, it was more important to them that I waited for Lena to find the perfect husband than that I was really happy. I tried to talk to them, to explain that it was my choice, that I couldn't obey their expectations, but of course they stood by their opinion. I realized that it's not my choice that matters to them, but their own image of an ideal family. I remember with my sister, the moment I heard this, I felt completely rejected. She didn't tell me anything, but I knew she was uncomfortable. She, as always, felt out of place at this moment, although she did not openly talk about it. The wedding took place without parents. I wasn't alone, my friends supported me, and this day became really important to me. I even felt relieved that they weren't there, because I understood that their opinion didn't matter for my happiness. But even after a long time, when I thought about it, I felt bitterness. Several years have passed. Dmitry and I have settled our lives. We have 2 children. But all this time, I couldn't help but notice how the image of my family had changed, how the perfect picture that my parents had so carefully built began to crumble. Lena, who has always been their pride, once divorced her husband, whom they were so proud of. It was a real shock for all of us. It was a real disaster for my parents, because now their perfectionism was bursting at the seams. Everything they were building seemed to be blurred. Lena, despite her successes, was faced with the fact that the ideal husband was not so ideal. This led to a divorce. I tried to support Lena, although I felt some tension in my relationship with her. I was always there for her. I tried to be a support for her, but to be honest, our relationship was not perfect. All this time, she felt like she was being put under too much pressure. When she was going through a divorce, she turned to me for support. I couldn't help, but it was difficult for me to be open at that moment. Everything in her life was falling apart, and she turned back to the one she had always considered a loser. It was all a bit ironic, but I accepted her pain and tried to be there for her. Gradually, my parents began to notice how their lives were falling apart. Dad went on some kind of temporary leave from work, trying to hide an internal crisis. Mom began to withdraw into herself more and more, avoiding communication with friends and family. One day at a family dinner, when we were all gathered, Mom just couldn't stand it and spoke out. She said that she feels like their ideal family is falling apart, that they can no longer maintain this facade that they have been building all their lives. It was very revealing and painful. I couldn't help but feel the bitterness and even some irony in this. My parents, who had rejected me for so many years because of my decisions, were now trapped in their own image. They could not hide their problems. They could not continue to live according to the scenario line that they had come up with for themselves and for us. I felt like they finally realized that real life has nothing to do with their perfect facade. I didn't tell them, "I told you so," because I still love my parents. But now I understand that happiness is not the image they have been trying to create for so long. Real life is about relationships, honesty, and love, not meeting other people's expectations.